Welcome to the One More Boom podcast, where we are a different breed. This is more than just a space for oilfield and pipeline professionals. It's a community built for those who refuse to settle for the ordinary. You're here because you're ambitious, resilient, and driven to excel. At One More Boom, we're both more than just work. We're both thriving under pressure, breaking new ground, and pushing limits. This is your place to connect, learn, and grow with others who live for the challenge. You're not average, you're a different breed. Welcome to the One More Boom community.
Here we are, new year, new me. Great to have you back. Great to have you back here, Shawn.
Oh man, it's so nice to be back in Canada. Other than I don't know what it's like in Calgary, but I'm here in Burnet, the Kelowna area, and it's snowing. And I think, man, I never got into winter sports. You know why? Because the winter time is busy time, right? You don't stop working in the winter time.
Exactly.
So now I just hate it.
Exactly. Well, you're supposed to be in Dubai right now, so this is probably a little bit of a shock to you.
It's a wee bit, man. 30 degrees every day over there.
Exactly. So, but that just breeds to the fact of what a lot of what we talk about is the changes, because it happens fast. You're not supposed to be here, but you are. Maybe do you want to touch a little bit about that and how those changes came about?
Yeah. So, I mean, everyone's experienced this in their career, right? It's I'm sitting there. It's Christmas Eve. It was Christmas Eve, and I'm out for dinner with all the guys and stuff, and we're having some enchiladas and hanging out and having some food, and we both go our separate ways. I go back to my place, and those guys go back to their place. And I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but my phone shuts off at 8 p.m. because I'm generally in bed by 8 p.m. and I'm up at 4:30, that type of deal. So my phone's off. It goes to do not disturb. My only person to get through to that is my wife. And actually, sometimes don't tell me, but I turn her off too because I don't want to hear from her. I just want to sleep. But just for emergencies and stuff, my daughter and that sort of thing. So my phone shuts off at 8 o'clock, and I'm getting into bed, and I roll over to just text my wife one last thing, good night, baby, have a good day, whatever, that sort of thing. And my phone is notification after notification. All my coordinator, all the guys that I work with, they're like, man, the coordinator's trying to get a hold of you. You gotta get a hold of him. I'm like, this is 9:30 at night. I'm like, all right. So I phone my coordinator in Canada here, and he's like, hey man, so there's no work for the next week or so we're just gonna pull you and send you home. I'm gonna need you on a flight in a couple hours. And I'm like, all right, so you want me to fly Christmas Eve night, so 1 o'clock in the morning, all day, get home Christmas Eve, because the time change, you end up getting home the same day you leave. So I get home Christmas, my family's gone, keep in mind, and they're with their family, right? She's with her family, and so I come home to an empty house, and I'm like, absolutely not. No, thank you. I mean, I'm not spending Christmas Day, even though it is by myself, but I would spend Christmas Day with the guys I work with, right? And which are like everybody else, they're extended family. So I say, absolutely not, man. I'm not going to do that. Well, and he's trying to convince me, and I'm like, no, absolutely not. And I think, at the end of the day, he was penny pitching. He didn't want to pay that last day rate. Yeah. So I ended up just telling him no and hang up the phone and go to sleep. And I wake up in the morning, and he's got me flights for that night instead. So 1:30 in the morning, just a brutal flight back, man. I left Dubai at 1:30 in the morning, flew direct to Toronto, 15 hours, 12-hour layover in Toronto, and then a 6-hour flight home, and then, an hour from the airport to home. So when it comes to penny pitching, I think everyone's kind of experienced this, right? There's boom, no work, everybody out, gone. And you're just I thought this project was supposed to last 3 months. And lots of, I've heard this story many times, man. You show up, it's supposed to be a 4 months, 1 year project, whatever, a month in, they're just yeah, well, we don't got nothing for you. So that's kind of how it played out for me. I was just whatever. So I just came home, and I let my wife go to her family, stay with her family. I shouldn't say I let her. Instead of flying to them, I just came home because jet lag. I mean, I'm 5 days home or 6 days home, and last night I was in bed by 6 p.m. up at 1:30. Had to take a melatonin to sleep till 4:30. Got up, went to the gym, whatever. So tonight's I'm gonna stay up till 8 o'clock, Nick.
Oh, that's crazy. You're just a crazy man. Right?
Well, I think it's part of it, right? And I think it's part of the industry, man. I don't know, on the pipeline side, I'm assuming it happens the same as on the completion side or the frac side or whatever you want to call my side. You just, you're supposed to be there. I didn't think I was coming home to January 15th, and you're just, like your mindset's already at January 15th, and they call you and they're like, yeah, I need you to leave in 2 hours. And it's like, you want me to pack up my stuff where I've moved in basically for the last 2 months, and I have to pack it up within the half an hour in order to get to the airport in time to fly out. And I was just like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Stop you penny pinching.
Yeah. No, and it happens all the time. It's wild and how it goes. And it's not getting any better. It's getting worse with the economy and all the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I wish there was a way that you could hold them to it, when you sign those contracts. And I guess a lot of it maybe is that we don't sign contracts anymore. You say, yeah, I need you for a 3-month project, and you come on. And to be honest with you, it's part of the reason why I left Canada, because I hated the up and down and the nonsense of that happening, but it still happens over there. So yeah. I don't think there's any way to get away with it. It probably just it's business.
It is business. No, definitely. So you spent Christmas alone there, and how did that go?
I didn't actually. So I spent Christmas Day with my crew, which was wicked. Yeah. So we bought some big fat ass ribeyes and got some sweet potato and had some beers, and cooked a big dinner for all of us. We ended up having, I think it was 5 or 6 guys. Yeah. I flew out that night, and I mean, they did their thing, but yeah, it was real good, man. It was Christmas Day was good. We didn't do the present thing, which, I mean, generally we normally do, but we did do it this year. So that was all right. I actually just got back from a project in there. So I only had a couple of days to kind of get in and do shopping. So it kind of saved me actually a little bit.
Yeah. And
tell me what happened with you guys. How was Christmas for you?
Yeah, Christmas is pretty low key, man. It's my kids are with their mom, and my daughter's out at college, and I was actually supposed to go and pick them up today, yesterday, actually. Yesterday, I was supposed to go pick them up, and yeah, having a daughter in college, and she just says she's too busy. So yeah, Nikki spent Christmas alone, but it's part of being divorced and doing all that, and that's a lot of the reason why I started the last podcast and we're doing, because yeah, there's a lot of emotions, man. So whether you're out working, because I do know lots of guys who are still out doing their thing away from their family, or you're divorced and either you had your kids on Christmas and all that. So it's a lot to take on. It's mentally, man. Yeah. So even for you, like, you were supposed to be gone, and I'm sure you were stoked a little bit to come back and see the kids, but that they're not in the house. So it weighs on us, man. We like to say that, yeah, it doesn't affect us, but it does. It does a lot.
100% it does, man. I mean, for me, it's like a mindset of you're not coming home, and that your family is taken care of by being away and with her own family, and then having to come home and talk to her, like, call her before and be like, hey, I'm coming home. Like, do you want me to fly directly to you, or do I fly home? So we did a little bit of digging, and the flight home, if I would have went to where she was, which is Vancouver Island, and then flew home with them, the flight home was more than both of their flights return together. It's unbelievable, the stuff that they can pull on holiday seasons.
On holidays, yeah, for sure. So it's, yeah, for me it was pretty low key, but I got my roommate there, and yeah, we did a little bit of stuff and watched a movie, and yeah, it was pretty low key though. So even New Year's was pretty low key.
Yeah, I think it was in bed by 10:30, man. I don't even make it to 12 o'clock anymore. But you know what? I was at the gym at 4, and I wasn't alone.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was supposed to have a date on New Year's Eve, and I did. I started the date, but then her son got in an accident, so he's okay, but the ambulance took him to everybody in the car. He wasn't driving or whatever, but I had to take him to the hospital. So the date got cut short. So, but that was going to be a rare sighting with myself going out and past. It was like 10 o'clock, and we were finally or I guess maybe 9, we were going to leave, and that's still late for me to head out and go somewhere. So
yeah, so I think this leads into like where we kind of want to get to in this podcast a little bit, and goal setting, man. I mean, so we don't have to do these things. What are your thoughts on that, Nick? Like, I know you got some big, ferocious goals in mind, and part of reaching your goals sometimes is sacrificing things that you not necessarily want to sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little, Nick, about what you sacrificed in order for your goals. Because I mean, I I've heard a little bit about it, obviously. I mean, we talk quite a bit,
Yeah.
but I know that I sacrificed being at work so that my family could, fly to Vancouver Island and have Christmas with them and be able to fly back. And I think we're heading to Costa Rica here right away, that sort of thing. So, but we sacrifice a lot for those stuff, and the goals are always the same sort of thing. So tell me if you want to.
Yeah.
Let's hear a little bit about your goals, Nick, and what you've had to sacrifice for those, because I don't want people to think that sometimes you don't have to sacrifice. I think that we all sacrifice in the oil field anyways. I mean, being gone and away and not watching our kids grow up and losing contacts with our spouses and
yeah,
well, that sort of thing. But those are the things that everybody knows about, but the things that they don't talk about or what I don't hear often is the things that the Christmases, the feelings behind it, regardless if you're chasing a goal, how you feel when you can't provide something that you would normally provide for your family or your loved ones because that goal is at the end or you're almost there and you need to be able to sacrifice just a little bit longer to get there. So I'd like to hear more about your story, Nick.
Sure. No, and I'll say being away, like you were going to leave or supposed to be gone for Christmas and all that. But it wasn't really to suit a goal. It was to make money. Like that was it. And I don't think that's your end goal is just to make money.
Absolutely.
So, and to make a wage, I guess. And that's what that is. So most of us, we do those things where we're sacrificing birthdays or Christmases or what have you, but it's really just to make money. You're not doing it for a purpose. You're not doing it to set yourself, well, you are trying to set yourself up later in life, but we don't have that overarching reason for doing it. It's just because we are. And a lot of times you're in that fight or flight mode where I just need to make money. I just need to do this. And for me, that's why I've sacrificed going out because I don't want to spend money on frivolous things. I don't want to eat garbage while I'm out because I eat very clean these days again. And I don't want to go out because I'm not as efficient the next day. So I haven't drank since 2019, since went to rehab either. So there's lots of things that I've given up because I've created these long-term goals where, like for me, I schedule in by the quarter. So I create yearly goals because, well, to me, goals are these dreams that we have. And then I reverse engineer back to 90-day targets, something that's tangible that you can actually chew on and be able to hit, kind of like a sniper. You're able to now reverse engineer what that target looks like to be able to now hit those targets, which pushes you to that goal, which may or may not happen because a lot can happen in a year. Let's be honest. So, yeah. So for me, I scheduled in targets for my fitness, fulfillment, family, and finances. And how I get there is I start with what are the facts? So what are the facts right now in my fitness, fulfillment, family, and finances? So facts to me would be, how much do I weigh right now? How many times a week have I been training? Have I been in fitness in particular? And then fulfillment, what am I actually doing for myself? And what are the facts? Like not stories, nothing else, just literal one line or couple word items, right? And then family, did I actually see my kids over the last quarter? And those types of things. How many times did I see them? How were those interactions? Yeah, exactly. And then finances or business, what were the facts in those? How much money did I make in the last quarter? How many contracts did we secure? Those types of things. And then personal finances, how much taxes do you owe if you owe taxes? Like things that are very uncomfortable. That's where I start. And then I go in the next line item. What are the feelings behind that? So as men, we don't really like to talk about feelings. It's a thing, as we've talked about before. But how do I actually feel about being, right now I'm 185 pounds-ish, depending on the time and the day. But how do I feel about that? How do I feel about my strength right now? Those types of things. How do I feel that I only saw my kids twice last quarter? Like, how do I actually feel about that? And then same when I look at my finances, how do I actually feel about that? and what are those particular feelings. And then from there, I work to what has been working. So the fruit. So the efforts that I have been working in, what does that look like? And what is working in each of those areas: fitness, fulfillment, family, and finances. And then from there, I go to in 1 year in each of those areas, what do I want to see in each of those? So that'll be the goal setting. In 1 year, yeah, I want to compete personally in a powerlifting competition. So there's a lot that I have to give up in order to meet that goal. And that's
Absolutely.
usually what happens. A lot of people like to add things. I like to take things away. It's easier for me to take things away than it is to add to the or add more things that I have to do every day. I'd rather take things away to be able to push me to those goals. And then finances, same deal. Where do I want to be in a year? And what does that look like? And now from there, I get to reverse engineer what it looks like in 90 days. So now I got something that's measurable and specific in each of those areas. So personally, I'm going to do a 1 rep max in 90 days and bench. Yeah, I'm pretty archaic that way, but just bench, deadlift, and squat. And then fulfillment. I still struggle with fulfillment, to be honest, for setting targets and goals in fulfillment, because that's something that I've never really gone down and explored. And you'd think after 6 years of doing that, I would get better at it. But personally, I still struggle at the fulfillment side of things. And then family, my targets in the next 90 days are going to each one of my boys' basketball tournaments. So it is basketball season. That's what he does. So, and that's really the only time that I get to go see him. So in order to do that, I've had to give up going out into the field. I've had to sacrifice that. I've chose to sacrifice that, I should say, in that area. And through that, then I'll get to see my daughter as well, because lots of them are out in those basketball tournaments are out in the Kootenays. So I'll be able to go out and see them for that. And then I've added in there taking myself out on some dates, because I can't control if I have dates with the other. I'm getting better at putting myself out there. But that's something, personal relationships, romantic relationships for me is something that I've put on the back burner, because I have these other audacious goals in business and life. And yeah, it's a distraction. It's a distraction. So personally, yeah, you got the wife at home, and that's awesome. But it's something that you have to always be cognizant about, right? Her time, your time, and all the things. I get to choose to take that one distraction out if I don't want it. And it's something that I am open to, though, for sure.
We're not saying get divorced.
We're not saying
get divorced so you can just focus on yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Not saying that at all. But if you are single, and to me, it comes back to the attraction, not chasing. So the more interesting that you can make yourself, the more quality of partner that's aligned with your goals and your vision you're going to attract. And that's 100% how I see that. And then in business and finances, we got some cash flow goals here, because I've personally been setting up these longer term, bigger contracts and everything. And now those over the past 9-10 months, and now I'm going back and we're going after cash flow. So things that are going to bring money in the door consistently every month. And for that, I got to give up time. So that's actually signing a contract with a contractor that's starting up and helping them get off the ground. So, but then that takes me away from my bigger contracts. I don't have time to chase that. So there's always a give and take in these things. But for me, I've established with the 1 year goals. So now, okay, well, that makes sense for me to do these types of things now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I like the way that you do it. I really like the way you do it. We do like vision boards, me and my wife, but it's basically the same thing. It's like, where do we want to be? How do we get there? You work your way back. But I like the 1 year, and then the quarterlies. For me, man, it has to be measurable.
Yeah.
It has to be. You have to be able to like see those steps, and like, are we at an 8 out of 10? Do we get all 10 steps? Where are we at? And then, you kind of, hopefully you've reached all the steps in all 4 places or 5 places for you. And then if you don't, you move that into the next quarter. and you hopefully get all those steps done in the next quarter. And hopefully if you don't, you move those into the next one and the next one. Do you have a way to like prioritize one over the other, or this is like, these are the goals, these are it. None of them take precedent over the other one.
No, they don't. I always choose, and that's why I work off of those 4 areas, because I have been that sadistic asshole that always pushed in one area, and that was usually business. And it forced it be cognizant, because that's how I roll, especially with ADHD and all the other shit that I got going on. And you just get blinders on. So if all I'm doing is focused on making money, and that's whatever that looks like, and especially in the oil field, you can work 365 days depending on the year, but you could essentially just bounce around, find somebody on days off to go work for, do whatever, and you just got these blinders on. And I was that guy that just went out and did whatever I needed to do to make money. So my fitness failed, my body was failing me. Like I say, and that's why I'm struggling with fulfillment, I believe, in a lot of areas, is because I was never cognizant that, you mean we could actually try to be happy doing what we're doing? Like, what does that look like? What does that look like? And then my relationships went on the back burner too. So obviously being divorced with my wife, I became disconnected with myself, which then became disconnected with her. And then all you were focused on was making money. And then if things get slow, or a situation like you, where you were relying on that 3-month contract, like not to live, but you basically have that money in the back of your head, like, oh, I'm going to make this much money in the next 3 months. Like, and then you start planning the rest of your year, because you got this nut now. But as we know, until it's in your bank account, you haven't made shit. And you based your value off of that money. And if that's what you set your value to, is how much money you're bringing in the door to secure your kids and your family and all that, well, shit, if you haven't made that now and you tied your worth to that, now that's where you start getting into depression and habits that are not probably so good. You start drinking more, you start sedating, all the things, and it's not a healthy place to be.
No, man, it's not. And I think that's why it's so important, like you said, to have those 4 audacious goals. And they don't have to be audacious. They can be minimal. They can be, they can be whatever. But you're absolutely right. If you're tying your worth just to work or one of those things, it leads to disaster every single time. Eventually, it might not be right away. It might be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. But eventually, it's going to lead to disaster. Whether that's, if you're not focusing on relationships, if you're not family, finances, whatever that is, whatever one that, and I'll be honest with you, like, even if you spent the whole time just trying to build that relationship, eventually those other 4 pillars, whether it's fulfillment or if it's finances, or one of them's going to take a shit, unfortunately. So I think that's why it's so cool that you take all 4 of them and don't put any priority over one over the other, and make sure that all those are fulfilled.
Wow. How many guys do you know? Exactly. How many guys do you know that at some point they've recognized, shit, I don't have that relationship with my kids or my wife or whatever, and they just start pouring themselves into that one thing, and they start not taking jobs, or they start, oh, I need to be home with the kids, or I need to do this. And now they're like, hey man, I need to find a job, or do you know anyone who's hiring that's around town? Like, whatever that looks like. So focusing on one thing, and that's why it's always the 4 for me now, because they're happening all around us, whether we like it or not. The tax man keeps calling. Your body, we're all getting older. We're all packing the pounds on if you're eating crap and doing the things. And it's really a way for you to tank if all you're doing is focused on one thing. Because it's all happening around us all at one time. Difficulty, I think we're back right now, so it's good. We talked a little bit about how I do my goal setting and everything, and you touched a little bit on your vision board. Maybe walk people through that, because I use that as well. But I don't use it for goal setting. It's more just for me as a reminder of where the hell I'm going.
Well, I think it's different, man. So what I say, me and my wife do it. So that's that kind of comes down to like family and stuff, right? So it's a little bit different than let's just focus on one little thing. That's just for us specifically, like, where do we want to be financially? Where do we want to live? You know, those sort of things, like goals that we want to set for 2 years. And these are even goals, even 5 to 10 years, man. So we try to we plan yearly ones every New Year's or around that time, sort of. So how that looks is literally just a vision board, man. It's like a big board. We've got a whiteboard. There's one actually right behind me. And then it's just something you can look at it daily, and it just gives you something to strive for every single day. So it's like when you get up in the morning, I have my morning coffee, I look over at the board, like, all right, how am I going to make that little step today to move towards that goal that I need to do in 90 days or a week or 2 weeks or whatever that looks like, so I can know that it's measurable and I'll get to that goal by the end of my 90 days or the end of the year, whether it's a new house or kids' college funds, or for us, we don't want to be in Canada. So it's making sure that we're on track to make sure that once the kids are kind of out of the house and in college and university, that we have the means to not be able to not be in Canada and travel the way that we want to. Some of that has to do with financial stuff. Some of that has to do with mindset. Some of that has to do with taking care of stuff around the house. I mean, we got tenants in our house, so that's something that we think about a lot is giving them full rent of the house, and then like, hey, here's your rent, and you kind of figure it out, whether you need tenants or whatever that looks like. That's just stuff I do for my business, and those other sort of things that I do for myself, I do a lot like you. I set up 3-month goals. I've got two to three different teams that I talk to, and then we just kind of plan our quarters out accordingly. So that'll be with business. Fulfillment is a little tricky for me now, especially with going back overseas. This podcast actually is one of my I like to give back. I like to give. That's like Simon said, it's like, what's your why? My why is giving. If I can help, if I can give any information, if I can help people not struggle, if I can take all the shitty, dumb things that I've done in my life and help teach someone how to do those and skip past those things, that's part of my fulfillment, man. So this podcast is a huge, huge thing for me. I don't know if you guys listen to what I got to say or whatever, but if I can help you in any way, skip all the BS and get right to the goods, whether it's starting a business, whether it's more time with family, whether it's a career, a job, schooling, grants, any of that sort of stuff. That's the stuff that I really like to do, and that fulfills me. That brings me a lot of joy. I know it's a little selfish, but that's what I like to do. And then family, obviously, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to, like everybody, how to make that part of my life work with every other part of my life, because it's easy to just get swallowed up in the day-to-day runnings of businesses and making financial goals and going to work and making sure that you yourself are also taken care of, because I think that's another huge thing, man. If we aren't taking care of ourselves, we can't show up to be the best version of ourselves for the people that we love or for our businesses or whatever. And you touched a little bit on that. You don't drink it anymore. I still have a few beers here and then, glass of whiskey at night or whatever. But I get smashed because it's just like you said, it's cognitively, I'm just not there the next day. So it's not worth it for me. That I don't like that feeling. I hate feeling underwhelmed by the decisions I'm making or the things I'm planning to do. So yeah, don't get smashed too often. I do enjoy a couple things. But anyways, enough about that. That's kind of how having multiple businesses and you yourself are involved in quite a few. It's hard, man. It's hard to have that balance. So just trying to get that balance with family, especially, and that was a huge thing to me. Me and my wife are taking off this weekend for the weekend, just the two of us. Kids will stay home, and we'll be able to reconnect and connect doing that, because I've been gone for 2 months, so it's a big thing for us. Get away from the responsibilities and really focus just on our relationship and what happened while I was gone and those sort of things. It gives us a lot of time to talk. And yeah, man, I think that's kind of how I roll. It's tough. It's tough for me I don't have a 1 year, a 3 month, 6 month in all of them. And that's maybe something that I need to work on myself.
Yeah, I would encourage it, because once I started doing it, I realized how much I was lacking in the other areas. And it explained so much to me, like personally, why I let myself go in all the other areas, because I had no no focus on anything but going to work. That was the only thing that I had to focus on. Well, it's pretty easy in some ways to just do that because it's like, okay, I know what I need to do, and let's make it happen.
Yeah.
But when you leave the gym or you leave your fitness for 10, 15 years, like I did, that's all I did was play sports and take care of myself when I was younger. And then started grinding, started working, started going away longer and longer. And then all of a sudden you can't tie your boots without huffing and puffing. It's a wake up call, man. And
I should say, like, I don't make fitness goals, but I mean, that's like an everyday thing for me. That's a non-negotiable.
yeah, well, it is. But I found personally, and I had a talk with my trainer right before New Year's, actually, and Christmas, actually. We got on a call and it was awesome. He made time for me. And because I was just going through the motions. I go to the gym 4 days a week. That's what I do. That way it gives me 3 days to spend time doing something else during the evenings or whenever that time is. But it doesn't mean my nutrition takes 3 days off, but at the time in the gym, right? But I was just going through the motions. So I was eating what he's told me to eat. I was training the way he told me to train, but I just wasn't feeling it. So I said, we need to set some meaningful goals for me this year. And I needed help with that, where my body's moving, where I got some deficiencies in some movement areas. I'm not being able to push the way I want to push in some of the lifts. So it was, okay, let's take a step back so that we can address some of these things, but I need a goal to be able to push forward. And if I don't have that personally, if I don't have that thing, then it's like, well, why am I doing this? I'll still do it, but it doesn't fire me up to go to the gym. It's like, oh,
Right.
we just checked a box today, if that makes sense. And I'm not a big
Yeah, I think that's what we're trying to say is I mean, we could break that. I like that how you put that, Nick, is checking boxes. It's if you don't have a plan, that's all you're doing. You're just checking a box. I spent some time with the wife today. Check that box. I hung out with the kids today. Check that box. I worked on my business a little bit. Check that box. I mean, if you don't have the goals, you're literally just checking boxes. So I really like the way you put that.
Yeah, and it's just so easy to get pushed off because if you're not fired up and then something else shiny comes along and you're like, oh, well, let's go over here. Just because you're following into that, what the Matrix wants you to do is just to show up every day and go home and try to be happy. And it just doesn't work. So yeah, when these shiny things come up, it can take you off track pretty darn easy.
Yeah, I agree. Agree. Yeah, so if we can lend a hand, guys, with any kind of goal setting or models on how to do that stuff, definitely reach out. I'd love to help.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got the framework that I use with the facts, the feelings, the fruit, what's been working, what's not been working for the past 90 days, your 1 year goals. Yeah, I can send that off to anybody who wants it. And maybe I should shoot it over to you too, Shawn. It sounds like.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, can I get a little bit of that?
It works. It works so good. And then I take it, then the one step further from that is then I go in and I check in every week. Okay, how did we do in each of these areas? So that you're not waiting 90 days to be like, oh, well, I just didn't move the needle and check any of these things off.
Yeah.
Any of these targets because I didn't check in. So then I check in each of those 4 areas. What did I do? And then you can step it back one step further and check in every day on what you're doing because there's non-negotiables that I set for each of those that I do every day. So
Perfect.
yes, I'm checking boxes, but it's for a purpose. It's okay. I set this thing and back to the big audacious thing until a person gets, and this is what I found, until someone gets proficient in working this way, in dealing with all 4 areas every day, all day, we set smaller, more tangible habit-based targets. Because if you start, and then if your life is a train wreck and you're going all over the place and you start pushing in an area, well, you can let these other things go off track pretty easy. So it's a matter of fine tuning what those 90-day targets look like, because if they're all big and audacious and, a week in, you're like, man, yeah, this isn't going to happen. And you start to burn yourself out, and that's not good either. So this stuff it's a science, but you got to do a lot of guessing and testing. And the more that you do it, it's just like anything, it's a muscle. And most of us don't have that purpose that we're moving towards. As we addressed at the beginning, we're just going through the motions and making money, which is great. But it'll feel a lot better making that money if you know what you're going to be using it for. If you know that the kids are what you're setting the kids up for, or the wife or yourself, if you're going to buy a business, if you're going to buy rental properties, if you're going to live on a beach when you're 50 years old, whatever that looks like to you, it makes it a lot better and a lot easier to stay on track, I should say.
I agree, Nikki. I agree.
Yeah. Oh, sounds good. Well, I'm glad you're back in Canada here for a bit. It'll make it easier to connect with you and crank a few of these episodes off.
Yeah, man, I look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, and get your ass to Calgary, and let's record here in person. So, yeah, that way you can sit right there.
Love it.
No, it's good. It's good. Well, we'll end this first episode off here for the new year. And it's exciting times, man. Where do you want to see this going with the next few episodes? Anything that you want to touch on here?
It's interesting you asked that, Nick. I think a lot about it, obviously. For me, I'd like to dive more into, or a little more into, like health and wellness. That obviously is my huge jam. And I think that starting with health and wellness and your own sleep habits and eating habits and that sort of thing, it leads to so many good things. We talked a couple episodes ago about, like, eating, I call it Haagen-Dazs, but I can't even remember, hoagie. Man, if you're eating that stuff, you're not getting the cognitive function you should. There's piles of things that we can get into about that, and we'll get into it in later episodes. I really think that health and wellness and getting yourself right and being able to show up for others the way that they deserve and you deserve starts with taking care of you, taking that time, whatever it is. And I know it's a little bit selfish, but at the end of the day, it doesn't turn out to be selfish. What it ends up being is you're able to show up for the people that you care about most, whether that's business, spouses, children, friends, parents, grandparents, whoever it is. You're able to show up in a way that they deserve and that you deserve to be able to show up for them. So I think that's it's really, really important. And I think that between the two of us, obviously we have a wealth of knowledge in that. So I'd love to touch base more on eating habits and stuff like that, to be honest with you. I think it's a great way, it's a great place to start. And once you kind of get your body in line and that sort of thing, you're able to expand, and it's crazy where your mind can go when you're feeding your body the right stuff.
Excellent. No, I'm excited for that. And what I think we should also touch on too is, and I've seen quite a few posts in the past couple of weeks actually on it, is peptides. And it's something, I'm still learning about. I'm kind of on the fence. I've always been more on I have more knowledge on the anabolic side of things. So it's a different area. But yeah, if we can touch on the peptide stuff, if you're open to that too, cool.
Absolutely. I think that peptides aren't new, but they're new to like the market. And there's a huge market for peptides. And I don't mean like just to sell them. I mean health and wellness stuff. They almost have something for everything.
Yeah. Excellent. No, let's do it. So, everyone have a great week here. And we appreciate you all tuning in, and make sure that you subscribe and share to anybody that you feel free that could benefit from this stuff. And yeah, definitely reach out if you got any questions on goal setting, because the stuff, it doesn't happen overnight. You got to keep doing it over and over and over and get better at it. So
that's right, micro habits, small
percent. So appreciate you, Shawn, and appreciate everyone tuning in, and we will check you later.
Happy New Year, guys. See you, brother. That's it for today's episode of One More Boom Podcast. Remember, you're part of a community that doesn't settle for the status quo. Here, we push boundaries, support each other, and thrive under pressure. Whether you're out in the field or level up your career, we've got your back. Stay connected, stay driven, and keep embodying the grit of a different breed. Until next time, keep pushing forward. Together, we'll achieve more. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode of One More Boom.